Today on the show, we have Kelsey Brannan, also known as Premier Gal. She's a YouTube host, video editor, and course author. Kelsey launched Premier Gal on YouTube in August 2016, and she's now at 11 million views and over 200,000 subscribers. So Kelsey, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Kristen. It's great to be here.
Yeah, so I thought we'd just kind of get started about how did you get interested in post-production film?
I guess post-production, I was lucky because I fell in love with it when I was quite young. When I was 15, 16, I was lucky to be in a public high school that offered a free media academy. And it basically integrated video production and post with our core curricula. So when we had to write a book report, we also had the opportunity to do a remake of it in a video format, and we had a technology class. And I knew then and there that I was like, this is so fun. I made some of my best friends and best memories creating stuff with other people. And I was like, I want to do this for the rest of my life. And I was really lucky to have that. And then from there, I just kind of always had something to do with video ever since.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So you went into college then and studied it?
I did, yes. I was kind of a big nerd. I was like a big student nerd. I loved doing well in school, and I always knew that I wanted to do higher education. I just loved the community of school, or the community that came with school, right? So I went to school at UC Santa Barbara. It wasn't my first choice. I had applied to USC, UCLA film schools, and I didn't get in. But I got into UC Santa Barbara. And boy, it's beautiful there. And I didn't really know much about their film department there. They have a film and media studies department. And it was great. It was like there was less competition there because everybody's like more chill in Santa Barbara. So it was like more of a chill vibe. You could still take production classes. Some great professors were there. Overall, I would highly recommend UC Santa Barbara Film and Media School. It's really amazing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So talk to us a little bit about how you made the jump from school to your first job.
Well, I kind of had like my first jobs while I was in school. Like my very first editing job was I was an assistant editor for the Hollywood Reporter in LA. It was kind of an internship. I can't remember if it was a paid one. Anyway, I worked there for the summer, and I didn't really like LA that much. I wasn't really feeling it. And I actually decided to go to graduate school in Georgetown, which is where I went to a program called Communication, Culture, and Technology. And there I studied more documentary work. And of course, after you graduate, I had student loans. So I was like, I need to get a job. So I applied to a few different positions, and I landed this gig at the State Department on their digital communications teams to create short videos on our international exchange programs. And that was a great starter job because I got to make these little stories about people that either had this amazing experience studying abroad, what they learned, kind of what they took away from that, what was the impact of traveling and experiences and cultural studies. And then when I was there, I got to do some teaching. So I got to teach some of our embassies or a different posts around the world, some online training on how to video edit it, how to take a logo, how to use this logo for branding. And I really enjoyed that. And I always was interested in YouTube. And like I've watched these YouTubers and I was like, gosh, like that's what they're doing. That's so cool. I wonder how that would work for me. And when I started to really fall in love with like teaching and like working with other people kind of in my past, because I worked at, in between college, I worked at the Apple store as a specialist and creative. So I taught like older people how to use like iPhoto on like Mac computers. Uh-huh. So I always liked teaching. So I was like, maybe this is it. Like maybe this is what is my thing. Like I created my own niche for myself because I was applying to other jobs after I started to get a little bit not bored with my work at the State Department. It's, political changes happen. DC is a very relationship type of place. And a lot of my friends were leaving the city and I was like, well, it's my turn. Oh. So I decided, my friends are leaving. It doesn't really feel that great. Well, rather than applying to jobs, which I wasn't getting accepted at, by the way, I kept getting rejections. I was like, I guess I got to just go with this YouTube thing and make my own job. And that's exactly how it kind of progressed. So that's kind of the story.
Mm-hmm. And so you started your channel And was it 2016, right?
Yeah, when I was still at the State Department. So I had sort of that safety net of like not relying on YouTube as my sole income. I was still building it up while I was making a full-time income from my job at the State Department.
Mm-hmm. And I think you did something really interesting with your launch strategy, right? You decided to partner. And how did that partnership influence like your creative decisions, and how do you feel that
Mhm.
it influenced ultimately your success?
Well, by partnership, do you mean like partnering with different companies for the videos or?
I think in one of the op-eds I read about you. Sorry, I did a lot of like background check.
Sure, sure. It's okay.
But you talked about partnering with Premiere Bro, who also has
Sure.
the kind of like the purple square logo.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a partnership. We basically just were like post-production nerds, and he happened to have this amazing site that he created called Premiere Bro. And I tweeted at him and I was like, hey, would you ever want a contribution from a Premiere gal as like a joke? And that joke turned into actually something that was a serious thing. I would have never have guessed it at the time. It was like I wrote a couple blogs for him, and for the first blog, I was like, why don't I create a tutorial and post it on YouTube and then embed that on his page? It was a great starter partnership, I guess, in the sense that he helped introduce me online to other people, because digital relationships now are really important, more so sometimes than person to person relationships. That's kind of where the person to person relationships start. And he was great, and very accepting, and loved my stuff. And I haven't been in contact with him recently, but it's not in a bad place at all. Like, we just haven't collaborated. I think he's actually not doing much with Premiere Bro at the moment, but it was a great catalyst for me to then go on and reach out to other people.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well,
Yeah.
let's take a moment and view just part of one of your episodes. So in case nobody's, maybe I don't know who hasn't heard of you at this point, but so people know kind of what you do online. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
All right, I'm going to share my screen real quick.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
There you are.
Welcome back to another gal tutorial.
I saw this and I was like, oh my gosh, she's wearing the same glasses as me. What are we going to do?
Inside of Premiere Pro, I'm going to show you the workspace that I use, some effects that I used from Audio Hero, which I reached out to, and they sponsored this video. They provided the sound effects and the music and the sound design.
My son really enjoyed this video, by the way.
The Prodigy
He's
plan,
7,
you can get up to 50
and
sound effects and music.
I'm trying to teach him how to do stuff. And sorry, is it hard for you to hear me right now?
No, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. So yeah, he was fascinated by how like you took the sound effects and altered them. He's like,
whoa, what's
going on?
So with this opening,
You got to have humor in this process, or else I wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah,
it helps
for sure.
encapsulate the viewer, bring them in.
So that sound design that I did, I actually just made that film for the tutorial using stock video and sounds only, because we're in quarantine right now. I can't go out and film stuff.
So thank you, Audio Hero, for giving you guys 25% off and sponsoring this video. And let's go ahead and jump on into Premiere. So all of the sound effects and music, besides my voiceover, are.
So if anybody wants to watch the rest, if everybody wants to watch the rest of this awesome video, check it out on YouTube. We'll put a link in the description. So that's kind of an introduction to the kinds of videos that you do. You take an idea, something somebody wants to know how to do, and you totally lay it out in a simple way that anybody can access and can achieve. And like, I feel like that's really making a huge difference in specifically like women's editing skills, because mentorship and having someone to look up to in the field who is a woman, that's a big deal. So
yeah, I think it very much is. I think visibility is huge, and like I didn't necessarily intend to start this channel with that goal, but I think to overcome, I guess, injustices or disparities between gender in the field is just to do stuff. And that's what I did. I just started making stuff. And that's what you have to do. I think talking about it's important, but I think doing has a far more bigger impact.
Well, sometimes you refer to yourself as a Shredator, right? Can you tell us a little bit what that means? I think that's such an awesome term.
Yeah, I learned about the term predator, which is producer editor, when I was working at the State Department, because that's kind of the job that people were hiring for, because the industry has changed so much in the sense people are not hiring specific roles so much anymore. At least in the digital media space, people are looking, okay, I need somebody that can shoot, edit, write, do everything. And I identified with that. And rather than just producer editor, I put the Shredator because I do like to film as well. So the sh is for shooting. And you just kind of have to know everything, especially on YouTube. I mean, basically YouTubers are Shredators, right? That's what they are. And so it was a natural progression for me to go into the YouTube space. But I think you would talk to anybody on YouTube that's in this area and they would probably identify with that too.
Well, who mentors you in particular? Who inspires your style and your work?
Gosh, there's so many different people, I would say. I really like this guy named Rumi Official. His name is Joel, and he has this whole a YouTube channel on music and sound, and he just has like a more carefree vibe. Like he tries to have more comedy in his editing, and he really inspired me on YouTube. I really like Shane Dawson's work. He's more of like a huge YouTuber where he goes out and shoots, and he's completely changing the game on YouTube. He's like making 60-minute long conspiracy theory videos, or like diving into a subject such as the beauty guru area. And he just keeps things more lighthearted. So the reason why I'm bringing them up is that they remind me to not take stuff so seriously, right? But there's also heaps of other people that have been trailblazers, like iJustine, who she got big just by going into Apple stores and filming with the Mac cameras, which is what I'm using right now, actually. She's great. I really like Sarah Dietschy right now. She does a lot of cool videos out of New York City on tech and stuff. So I could go on, but those are like the top 4 names that I can think of.
And how important to you and your brand was setting up an LLC? Because it's not necessarily something that you have to do, right? To set up a YouTube channel. What kind of impact did that have on your experience?
Well, I've always wanted to start my own business, and I was operating as a sole proprietor for a while, and actually I set up the LLC mainly for tax purposes, to save money, and then also to be able to hire people as contractors more easily, set up payroll, and all that stuff was important to me. And of course, you don't want to like incorporate and do all that stuff in the beginning if you're not making enough money. But I waited about 4-ish years since I launched Premier Gal to really get into that. So yeah, it's important for liability stuff too. Like an LLC, it protects your personal assets. And I'm not like a business person per se. I didn't really study business, but I really enjoy it. Now I like making a spreadsheet if I have to. It's important skills to have, to understand. So I just incorporated actually last year. So it's pretty new. I'm still learning about it every day, to be honest.
Well, was there ever a time that you wished you had done that before that you'd actually did? Maybe like, did you ever need a lawyer for anything, or I don't know. You're so prominent on the internet. Was that ever an issue?
No, I haven't had any issues. Just recently I've had an issue where somebody did rip my voice without my permission and is using it for something. Actually, it's ongoing right now. I actually just reached out to a lawyer to figure out what to do. And it's a bit more complicated than you think when it comes to intellectual property, because we live in remix culture, right? But obviously there's permission levels, but I'm still in the midst of figuring out if I have to deal with somebody who's based in Oregon, because that's where my company is registered, as in Oregon. So it's definitely an ongoing learning process to figure out all of that stuff. But it was never an issue for me before. And I never wished that I incorporated earlier because, well, actually I did after last year's taxes. I wish that I had an LLC because the sole proprietorship, self-employment tax is pretty brutal. So I had wished that I probably did it before 2019, but it's okay. It's all good.
Survived.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I haven't personally gotten there, but I've incorporated like a different business and then like wound up not doing that business anymore. So I was like, why did I even go through that? But because there's costs associated with setting it up. But
yeah, there's cost. And then you can use those as your startup costs though. So yeah, I've used, the one thing I do recommend if you guys are out there, and even if you haven't incorporated yet, just getting an accountant to help you. I use 1-800-accountant right now, and it's basically all online, and they give you a tax advisor, and you just keep track of all your expenses and you mark them, equipment, travel, and it just keeps it all nice and neat and tidy. Because I was very overwhelmed by it because I'm not good with like taxes and like money and stuff. So like this like helped just streamline it and give me a little bit more peace of mind so I can focus on the creativity and not worry about keeping all my receipts and everything, you know?
Well, what about your logo, how it's so similar to the Adobe logo? Did that concern you, or was Adobe like super excited about that? Like what did that?
Oh, that's a good question. The Adobe folks, my relationship with them is great. Like I think that they were just super stoked that, you know, a female tutorialist was out there creating awesome free tutorials that promote their product. If they did come after me, I'm sure it would look really bad at it for Adobe. But no, they would never. Like the thing is that the gal is, I actually have it trademarked. I trademarked it because you can't really trademark letters in a square. It's not something that, but if I took the Adobe logo, that would be problematic, right? But yeah, like I've definitely thought about like changing my name in the future because like I just don't do Premiere tutorials anymore. I do like Photoshop, Lightroom, Audition, a lot of Adobe products. Sometimes I just do like camera equipment tutorials. So I was thinking about just rebranding it to Gal Media, but at the same time, Premiere Gal is kind of my legacy, so I didn't really know what to do. And I think I'm still kind of up in the air on if I should ever even do anything about it. Just keep it like that and that's it, you know? Other people have suggested just to use my name, but I also think that that's just kind of boring. So at the end of the day, I think Adobe has been super supportive and I didn't have any legal issues, or did I really have any concerns ever? That answers your question.
To go back to switching platforms, because have you ever thought about moving to Avid? I have a lot of Avid editors on the show. No,
never. I've never had a desire to try Avid, mainly because I don't edit TV shows, and I don't think it's necessary for me to learn it. Especially now, Avid is a little bit more difficult. I mean, I may be speaking wrongly, and I'd love to talk with an Avid editor about how they're bringing their work home or how Avid works at home. But I've been hearing a lot of people are switching to the cloud, Adobe Creative Cloud, for this whole coronavirus thing that's happening right now because it's just easier to work with. But, you know, I'm speaking from somebody that has zero Avid experience, so I don't want to say anything wrong. I respect Avid and I respect that arena of editing, and heck, I'd love to sit down with an editor and just learn their flow, to be honest. I'm not really platform biased. I started as Premiere Gal, and it evolved to me. Premiere evolved to be an adjective more than a software for me. Premiere as in awesome. Premiere as in premiere of a show coming up, you know? So for me, I used to use Final Cut Pro 7. When I was in school, I used Final Cut Pro 7 until Apple made that decision, no, we're switching to 10, and I tried 10 and I didn't like it. But from what I understand down the grapevine is that I think Premiere or Adobe snatched the UI designers from Final Cut Pro 7 and they made it very similar. So that's why when I tried Premiere, it was such an easy transition for me because it was so similar, just a few different keyboard shortcuts. But I don't care if somebody used Final Cut Pro 10 or Avid, I mean, a lot of the same editing principles apply. Whatever you can use to quickly edit, use it. You know what I mean? I don't mind.
Well, I started on Final Cut Pro 10 and jumped to Adobe, and it was so difficult. It was like learning a new language.
Oh,
I
totally.
started on 7, but that was before my time, actually. I think I started in Movie Maker, right? Like one of those.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting how like the UI can really make it difficult. I imagine if I would have started on 10, I would have really had a difficult time with Premiere, I think. So yeah, I think it just depends on how you were accustomed to using nonlinear editing systems, and whatever works for you, by all means, use it.
Well, let's talk a little bit about like how you schedule your day or your week, because you do like so much. You've got your tutorials, your videos that you're obviously like you're brainstorming ideas, you're making those ideas and producing things like templates for fans and clients. Like, how do you do so much and keep publishing every week, right? That you put out a new video.
For the most part, yes. Sometimes I'll occasionally skip a week. But yeah, I mean, lately I've actually said no to a lot of template creation for clients. And I get a lot of people saying, hey, can you give me a quote for this? And I just say, unfortunately, right now, I can't do that. So I actually haven't been creating a lot of templates, but I've been really fortunate to work with a lot of amazing artists and template creators to promote their templates. Because I realized my strength right now is in my audience and in my voice. And it's not to say that I don't like to create anymore. It's more like just prioritizing what makes sense at this time. So right now I work with my project manager to schedule weekly sponsors for all of my videos. So that way we can have basically the sponsors serve as a way for us to do our job and get paid for it, because ad revenue isn't enough to live off of. So the sponsorships are really important to our content, to make free tutorial content. So a lot of people are like, oh, sponsors, blah, 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 you're just promoting stuff. I'm like, well, it's an essential part to like be able to, live, and I'm super fortunate for that. So right now, 100%, I prioritize sponsors whose products I love, that how can they fit into the content, and how can we use a combination of marketing techniques to promote their product in a tutorial. And usually I like the product to be related to the content in some capacity, if possible. So long answer short is I don't make a lot of templates anymore, but I am potentially working on a longer course right now. So writing a course out while I'm doing like weekly content. And that's not too much for me to do at the moment.
And you do edit, you still edit your own videos, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
I have to, because it's I think eventually what I'd like is to be able to get to the point where I have a month or 2 months of content already created. But right now, I kind of love getting inspired in the moment, and I'm usually just 1 week ahead. Not even. Sometimes I'm just believe it or not, I'm still very much in this mode of being like, okay, so what's hot right now? Because if I produce something a month ago and it's not as relevant a month later. So I'm very much creating weekly still, and it works for now. But it would be nice to have at least a week's content or a month's content in advance, so I could like take a vacation. And I do that. I'll like work extra hard when I have a vacation, but I really do like producing weekly. And eventually I think we'll get an editor, but right now I edit fast enough that it's not too much, So I can pretty much make a tutorial in like 2 days.
You can make a tutorial in 2 days?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's you and your producer and your partner. Is your partner your producer?
Partner is project manager more.
Project manager.
But producer, I guess, is kind of a role as well.
Okay. Is there anybody else or?
Not really. In the beginning, I had an intern that helped with some logo design stuff. But yeah, nobody else, because it really has to be somebody who is either a better editor than me or somebody that I really, really trust. And it's really difficult to find those people, especially when, you're so used to like this, your baby, you have to like come up with like all the steps.
Yeah.
And then it's really, if I need it, if I feel like I need it, I'm going to take the time to write out the steps to create the templatized projects and do all of that. And I think we will get there. But if you guys who are listening, if you do want to hand something over, just write instructions out on what you do and really create like a template for your logo reveal, for your logo lower thirds, any sound effects that you use, and just like pass that over. But I know a lot of YouTubers that just have editors and they used to edit all the time. But we'll see. It's hard because it's like my whole channel started on video editing. So it's weird to not be the video editor of a video editing channel.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just have to learn how to delegate. And that's a difficult thing to do.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, so before you brought on somebody to find your partners or your sponsors, you obviously did that yourself, right?
Yeah, I knew a lot of different plugins. I knew a lot of different tools out there. And when I first started, I just reached out to them and said, hey, can I have a free license and I'll make a review of your product? And they're like, yeah, sure. And then I developed good relationships with those people. And they then saw the value in sponsoring the content from the views and people that were buying their tools, which are awesome tools. For example, like Boris Effects, these film impact transitions, which I love. They save so much time, like little pops and swipes, and it just makes, you don't have to keyframe or make presets. It's so much easier. And now we get people coming to us. So now that's what Anya does, the project manager. She just goes through and she just, sees any emails that come in. Some are like no's and some are yeses. And we just work with those companies to see how we can work together. And yeah.
Now, it sounds like you kind of have your finger on the pulse of like what's coming up in the future because you're making this like current content every week. It's fresh. Like how do you think our current Corona situation will impact, video editing in the near future or maybe next year? What sorts of things are you looking to let people know about?
Well, I think, doing lots of what we're doing right now, connecting with people over remote video podcasts, doing relevant content with other creators. And now on Instagram, you see so many people live on Instagram Live connecting with people. So I think live is going to be big in the future, or just pre-recorded content like this that you make and then cut together. I've always been a huge advocate of working from home. I was lucky when I was working at the State Department, when we had one acting supervisor, we got to telework twice a week, every other week. And I was almost more efficient working from home to set my own schedule because I'm kind of a night owl. I like to stay up late. I hated waking up early and having to start my day at 8. I usually start my day around 11, just because I need my mornings to my personal time. And so, yeah, I think that people are going to start to have to figure out different work from home situations. And also, I just think over the years, I think this is just a sign for us to slow down a little bit, and just be more with family and focus on the more important things in life. But at the end of the day, like, this will pass, and like we know that we have the tools now to create from home. And my job hasn't changed at all. I pretty much edit and work from home anyway. So for me, I guess I hope that people realize that they do have the tools to create the job that they need to from home and have more flexibility. Because I was lucky that my when I was growing up, my dad, he worked a lot from home, and it was nice to have him there. He like set up his home office too, even though he had a separate office. And I just hope that helps improve, like family balance and stuff like that. I think that's really important.
Yeah, for sure. Well, at the beginning of this interview, you talked about how you moved away from California, right? And as a YouTube editor, you get to work from home. Well, as like a lot of Hollywood editors are doing crazy hours, right? Producing films and TV shows. Do you think if these
Right.
people were able to work from home, the culture would shift to something that's more conducive to like self-health? And would you personally be more interested in editing for film or for TV? I mean, you have the skills. Clearly, you're one of the most talented editors like of our generation, I would
Well,
say. Like,
maybe.
is that one of the things that has kept you from going and editing like a Marvel show? You know what I mean?
Definitely. I mean, I think, it depends on like where you want to live. Yeah. And like I'm lucky right now where I'm in that stage of my life where I haven't really decided, or maybe I'm just afraid to put roots down. You know what I mean? I don't want to put the roots down because then I'm like, oh, I don't want to have a huge mortgage somewhere. You know what I mean? I want to like be sure that that's the place I want to be.
Yeah.
Maybe that would change. I mean, I'd love to be able to edit some trailers for Hollywood and like do some cool like social media videos. And if I could do that from home, like maybe I would get more involved with it. But right now I'm like super content with what I'm making right now. But I always think it's important to step outside your comfort zone and try something new every now and then. Because, I can easily fall into a creative slump. And sometimes that happens to everybody where you need to be inspired. So, I mean, maybe, if I didn't have to be in LA to edit something, I know that some Hollywood editors, I think, I forget his name, I'll have to write it to you afterwards, but he told me that he edited the entire feature-length film and he won Best Editor for Oscar. He edited it all the way in, I think, some place in Chico. They had all the footage shipped to him and he prefers to work from home. I don't know if he had to work to that level over the years, but they're like, yeah, sure. And he just edited by himself away in some peaceful forest home. And I think it does exist now. You just have to find a good director, producer that trusts you. And it's all about relationships, right? So I think this is going to change in the sense that people will start to trust people more from working from home. And I think our generation is more trusting of it. You know what I mean? Because I think when I worked before, there was generations above that were a little bit more skeptical about it. But now I think people are going to be like, oh, it's like a legit thing. Like we went through a whole crisis and somehow it worked. So,
yeah.
They'll just be more trusting of it.
Mm-hmm.
That was rambling. Sorry.
No, that was great. That was great. I just have something in my throat.
It's okay.
So a few years ago, you wrote that your gender analytics for your YouTube channel were like 82% male and 18% female, right? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember.
Has that changed at all over the years? And what do you think that tells us about like editing in society? Not necessarily who gets hired, but like who's interested, who's learning.
Well, also, okay, does Google still decide what somebody's gender is based on what they look at?
Oh, I don't know.
So I remember, and I don't know if it's changed, but I swear at one point I wasn't logged in, or I can't remember if I was logged into Google, but I hadn't like opted for my gender, and I was like looking at a lot of tech stuff and it automatically assumed I was a man. But I don't know if that is still real or if I just made that up in some dream. So I apologize, Google, if I just assumed that. But let me see. If I go to analytics right now, I can actually look on my phone, my current analytics under my audience to see what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually lower now for female. It's the male. Oh, this is the last 28 days. So the last 28 days, it's 87.8% male and 12.2% female.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's kind of the same. If you look at stereotypes, like it's more, I guess women are more into like health, beauty, fitness type stuff. But again, that's not everybody. So I don't know. The age though, my top age is 25 to 34, but I have people that are in all age groups watching. Top country is United States and then India. Hey, India.
Woo.
Then the UK, then the Philippines and Indonesia are my top countries. So
That's funny. I actually got out of freelance editing because I felt like all of my jobs were going to Indonesia. I love you guys. What's up?
yeah, they're great. But yeah, I don't know why it is. I think maybe it's just because, I mean, if you look at the number of female tutorialists that are in video editing, there's just a handful of us, like Atola Visuals, Kitty, and then Lizzie Pierce does some video editing, but mainly photo editing. But yeah, I mean, I hope that's going to change. I know that there's some younger gals that are like 15, 16 that are starting to get into it. So I think it'll change, just like in history of time, like, like in NASA, there was just a few women engineers who weren't really recognized. And then now we have so many female engineers, and we have a ton of great groups like Girls Who Code and all that stuff. So like anything in tech, like I think it's changing. But yeah, most of the video editing tutorialists are male. If you go online, there's so many of them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, how about, let's see. I guess we can leave the gender thing. It's like
yeah, it's a difficult thing to talk about too, because I find that there's a lot of guys out there that are like motion graphics artists and stuff, and there's so few women who get recognized in it. Or I don't know if it's just women feeling like they can't get into video editing, especially in Hollywood, because of the crazy hours. Like, oh, well, what if I have a child? And then they don't have that job security. But if they have a YouTube channel, I can still make a video if I'm pregnant. It's not a huge disability. I mean, probably once I have the kid, it's going to be more difficult, but you can create that flexibility for yourself.
That's so funny. I actually got started doing pregnancy vlogs. Yeah. I was living in Virginia and my family was in Chicago, and it was like, well, how am I going to share this experience with my family in particular? So I started a pregnancy vlog. That's where my whole thing started. Yeah. Which I didn't have more than 10 subscribers, but but yeah, you can do YouTube if you're having a family.
Yeah, and exactly.
So numbers wise, how successful does your channel need to be before you can sustain your bills? You know what I mean?
It depends. Like there's some people that could have 20,000 subscribers, 10,000. And if they create an online course, if they're well connected, you can make a full-time income, And with a combination of affiliate marketing, which is when you share a product and you make a commission of that product sale, and direct sponsorships, you can really do good and do well in that 10 to 20K range. But you have to keep that audience engaged. Most of my views come from non-subscribers. So I'm even working on that, even over 200,000 now. You have to figure out, how do you keep people there, especially in content where not everybody's interested in every effect that I'm sharing. Mm-hmm. And usually there are people that are on Google trying to find how to do something. So it's kind of always growing, and a lot of people aren't consistent viewers. And I think that's okay, but you need to make sure to keep those people engaged. So if you do come out with full courses or products that you want to share, that they still value your voice. So no matter what audience you're at, try to get that ratio up of more of your subscribers continually watching you. Mm-hmm. And keeping them engaged through newsletters, different sites like Patreon, collabing with lots of other creators if you can, which I find difficult because it's I'm always thinking of stuff to do on my own channel. So to have to think about doing collaborations is a whole nother layer, right? But there are times when I go through it where I just feel like I need more human interaction, and I'm planning some Instagram TV stuff with a fashion vlogger, or not a vlogger. She's more like a model, but she's married to a guy that does tech YouTube stuff. Her name is Anya B. And she's great. She does some great stuff. And sometimes I feel more in a social mood and less introverted, and I want to, set those things up so I can have that kind of interaction. But for me, it's less about using them, and it's more about like a genuine connection that I have with somebody and that I really like their work, and it would be an honor to work with them,
Would you say that you personally are an introvert or extrovert?
When I took the Myers-Briggs test, I got INFJ, which is a introverted feeler judger. And I know judger sounds bad, but it's more internal judgment on yourself. But introverted for me doesn't mean that I don't like to be around people. What it means is I start my day with a bag full of gold coins. And every social interaction that I have, I give that person a gold coin. And if I give too many gold coins, by the end of the day, I feel exhausted and drained. I need to refill it. Versus extroverts, they start their day with their bag empty, and they need to collect coins from other people. And for me, I kind of border. I took the test twice, and one time I tested extrovert and one time I tested introvert. So I'm kind of a complicated person in that sense. But I would say that some days I have an empty bag and I want to go out and collect gold coins. And especially now during this time, I feel like I'm more extroverted in the sense that I want to go out and like Skype with somebody, even though I can't go out and meet with them face to face. I'm like messaging more of my high school friends, reconnecting and stuff like that. I think a lot of people are doing that right now, not just me. But yeah, I would say that I need to have, because of my introverted core, that's why I get creative and I'm able to have success with the YouTube channel, because I can focus and just bang out a tutorial, because I'm just like, I can be okay with my own thoughts, and that drives me,
For sure. And I'm totally an introvert. And by the way, I can totally tell like what you were talking about, being a teacher and feeling like teaching is what you're meant to do. Just in that explanation right there, you didn't just tell us like what you are, you explained and taught us the difference. Like that's so powerful. Right. That's such a great skill to have.
I guess I never thought about that.
I don't want to make you self-conscious at all. It's a good thing. Okay. But you did mention Patreon a few minutes ago. How has your experience on Patreon been?
It's interesting because people want to help and they want to like support you. And if you have a platform that allows them to do that, you would be surprised at who would come and just give you a couple dollars per month just to say, hey, thanks, And if people have the means, they will do it, So Patreon for me, it's less about getting people to sign up for perks, like different rewards that they can get. And it's more about like, hey, I'm creating these free resources, if you need more help, I'd love to be there for you a little bit more. You can direct message support me. But in terms of like getting perks, like I'm more in the sense of people becoming a Patreon because they just want to give back. And I think a lot of people agree with that. So usually when I go to support somebody, I'm not expecting to get a t-shirt. I just want to help that person, So Patreon's great for that because it's ongoing. Some people can leave because they can't afford it anymore, and that's totally fine. And I appreciate any amount that people support me. I think I have just 51. I've been treading around 50 to 52 patrons per month. So that goes to show that out of 200,000, I only have 50, which is not a lot. But I also haven't been actively promoting it as much because I've been more in tune with trying to get sponsors to support the channel. But a lot of people have decided to go the route of having it be community funded sponsorship. So I've seen some people, I don't know if you've heard of Craig Adams, but he does a lot of hiking videos now. He used to do more tech stuff and vlogging style in New York, but he actually started not Patreon, but YouTube now has a platform where you'll see a button on somebody's channel that says join, and you can become a member of that channel. For some reason, YouTube doesn't want to enable it on my channel, which is really weird. I'm eligible for it, but they were like, oh, it's just limited to a certain number of channels right now. And I was like, but I'm eligible. I don't understand. So then I was like, okay, whatever, I'll just stick with Patreon. But it's essentially the same thing. It's like if somebody joins and becomes a member of Premier Gal or on Patreon or the YouTube, then they get certain perks. And some people have been like featuring those people's names in the video, like, hey, this video is sponsored by you guys. And then it has like a list of everybody. And I think that's super cool. And I think that that's something that I could maybe consider doing, because I wouldn't really exist without the viewers and the learners that are there. But yeah, it's an interesting thing to say, like, hey, donate to me, because it's also a weird thing. So you have to do it tactfully. You can't just say like, donate so we can get $2,000 per month to make this and that. It's like disrespectful to say the number. And actually I hide how much money people are donating to me. It's just a number of people versus how much money I'm making per month, because it's more about the people than the money. For
You
me,
hide
at
it from
least.
yourself.
No.
Oh, sorry.
That would not be a good business strategy. No, I hide it from the public page. So when you go to patreon.com/premiergal and you want to donate, you can't see how much money I'm receiving from people, but how many patrons I have.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So based on that, like, and where you are these days, and I know that we're running out of time, so I'll try to be quick.
It's okay.
What are there any strategies besides producing like excellent content and like partnerships that helped you grow your channel?
And this is for people who are potentially interested in starting their channels. Yeah. Okay. I would say, like, you have to do what, at the end of the day, you have to find a way to do things that you love, but also being smart as well. So like, as much as I want to interview this awesome director, producer, it's not going to get as much views as practical things that people need to find or use, or things that are popular. So you need to find that kind of sweet spot of creating content that you love that's also something that people are searching for. So it's kind of a hybrid of that. So if you want to start a channel, you have to be very smart about what content do you love, like what's your passion, and how can you then make that a popular thing that people would actually click on. So unless you're like super big and you can just post, a video of you cooking spaghetti and people will watch it. But like, I can't do that even at, my level right now. I can't just like say, and we're going to make spaghetti today. People would be like, well, what? Like, aren't you video editing? I mean, maybe people would watch it. I don't know. I don't do vlogging style content because I personally think, why would I film my personal time? Like, I feel like that would be so destructive to myself. Some people can do it and they're great at it, but I can't vlog. It's not my thing. But find what you love. If you love vlogging, be smart about it, right? Watch David Dobrik. He somehow skyrocketed to almost 20 million subscribers with his friends, just doing pranks and stuff. But it works because he has this formula down. So watch his formula if you're interested in that and figure out, what did he do? But he took his passion, which is his friends, and he turned it into this amazing thing, which I think is phenomenal.
See, and people still do that on YouTube, or is there like another are you eyeing any future platforms to move to? Because it's pretty saturated now. This isn't 2016 anymore per se. Like everybody who's ever thought of making a video is on YouTube, right?
Yeah, it is more competitive, but I think competition is good because it means that people are there, and people are watching, and you don't want to be on a platform where there's no competition because then nobody's on there as much. But it's good to be a pioneer in certain platforms. Like IGTV is still fairly new. And I've been experimenting with IGTV recently, where I started just to put music and cut just the screen recording to the music of creating an effect. So people like to watch the process of it with music, and it's kind of meditative. So rather than doing like a full length tutorial with my voiceover, it's just music and the screen recording. So I may consider doing more for IGTV. TikTok, a lot of people have told me about it, but I haven't even opened the app yet. I have no idea what's going on there, but I love like watching those little dance things that people do. I think they're super entertaining, and I can see why people like it. You know, it's funny. It's something that you can do, get some exercise in if you want to do some dance moves. But honestly, like if anything, I don't think I would go to another platform. If anything, I think I might create another channel on a different topic. Just now that I have an understanding of how it works now, I feel like it'll be much easier to launch another channel, and I don't see YouTube going anywhere for a long, long time.
Well, what advice would you maybe have for women who are getting into post-production and video editing?
I would say like reach out to people that you admire. You'd be surprised at if they're going to respond to you, because they're just human too. They may feel like they're out of your league, if you want to say that. And sometimes they are super busy and they may not respond. But rather than approach it like you want to get something from them, show how you add value to them, or like have a reason why you want to reach out. And I think getting a mentor, you know, you should definitely look to people in the area and become friends with people. Like I befriended a lot of master trainers like Christine Steele, Louisa Winters. They teach at all the big conferences, and be humble. You know, like they set the stage. Because of them, I'm able to do what I'm doing today. So find mentors, both male and female. You know, don't think that just because you're a woman, you need to seek out a female mentor. There's so many supportive guys that have been amazing supporters of the channel. Hello, Premier Bro, thanks to him. Like, seriously. But actually, Louisa Winters is interesting. She told me when I was first starting out, she was like, you know, you're doing great, but if you want to stand out, you have to be better than the guys. And I was like, maybe she's right. So like my goal has always been to like not prove it wrong, but like show that like I am better in a sense, but not in a cocky way, just more of like, I want to bring so much value to show that, to prove my skills in a sense. And now it's more about the community so much, not so much about me. It's about sort of like learning, and that learning from them too. Because some people even leave remarks on my comments. Oh, you should have done this. I'm like, that's a good point. Like, I didn't even know that, you know? So it's like constant learning. And I just want people to know that part of the main reasons why I started this channel is I want to continually learn. I missed that from school. Like I said in the beginning, I loved being a student and I missed that learning. So each week I'm learning something new on the channel, and don't ever think that there's going to be a stage where you're not going to learn anymore. You're always learning. So be humble, reach out to people, and yeah, just see what value you can give them. And I hope that that's a way that you can get started.
Well, fun question, and then I'll let you go. Where did the hats come from? What inspired the hats?
This is because my hair is dirty and I didn't shower. That's actually the truth. That's why I started wearing the hats, was because I was lazy and I didn't shower, and so I'm wearing a hat. But also I love fedoras because especially in springtime, you know, I have fair skin, so it's good for me to wear hats so I don't get like a sunburn and get more freckles. Actually, this hat was really random. I was in some pawn shop in San Francisco and I just saw this and I was like, I love this hat. But yeah, I love baseball caps. I love beanies. I love other hats. And especially when my hair is dirty, it's great.
Very cool. I love fedoras too, except they never fit my huge head. I'm just like, you're really lucky.
Oh man, I got lucky with this one for sure.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It was such a pleasure to have you on and to hear your stories and your advice. And thank you very much.
Sure thing, Kristen. Thanks so much.
Okay. Oh, before we go, if people want to find you online, where can they find you?
Yeah, well, you can go to the main site is youtube.com/premiergal, but I also have my website, premiergal.com, where I do blogs and like do announcement stuff. So definitely check it out there. You can see all the different platforms I'm on from the website.
Awesome. Thank you.